Today is a school holiday here in Scotland, which means that the kids have even more time to try to turn all the rest of my hair gray. Well, when I say today is the holiday, I mean the day I'm posting this video, not the day I'm filming it. Speaking of holidays, I thought today would be a good day to talk about annual leave, or as they call it in America, vacation time, PTO, which is short for paid time off, or holiday pay. Because man, there is a big difference. My twins just turned 4, so they're still in nursery. I never went to school in the United States, so I can't really compare the US versus Scottish schools from personal experience, but I know there are quite a few differences. And I know that America has, of course, summer, spring, and fall break, but I feel like there's quite a bit more time off here than back in the US. I feel like almost every other week I have the kids home for at least a day or two because there's yet another holiday. Here in the UK, all full-time employees are required to have, by law, a minimum of 28 days a year of paid vacation, which includes public holidays. If you're part-time, you still are entitled to those vacation days. It is prorated based on how many hours you work, but it's not just full-time employees that enjoy the rights of annual leave, as they call it here. What's crazy for me is that from my point of view, 28 days a year is absolutely fantastic. But by European standards, 28 days a year is actually not that much. There are quite a few countries in Europe and other parts of the world that actually have more days per year of paid holiday. Almost every single country on earth has some sort of mandatory paid vacation time per year that all employees have to have, except for the United States. If you are working in the United States, you are entitled by law to exactly 0 days of paid vacation and 0 days of sick time per year. It is up to each individual employer whether or not they want to give you paid vacation, and if they decide to, it's up to them to decide how much they give you. Chances are, if you're in the United States and you're lucky enough to have paid vacation time, it's also not going to be anywhere near the amount of time that you will get here in the UK with any company you work for. Here's one example. One of my more recent jobs back in the US was a very good job, very highly sought after with an airline, and it was a union job. And in America, if you have a union job, that is much better than any other job. Unions are kind of hard to come by in the US, and they bring with lots of benefits that most every other company does not have. Even with that being a union job, my first year working at that company, I was lucky enough to get 5 days of paid vacation. 5 days, and that was a really good job by American standards. I remember another job I also had years ago. It was, again, a pretty good job by American standards. I was relatively high up in a management position, and I remember at one point, one of my colleagues was boasting about how he had been with the company, it was either 20 or 25 years. And because he'd been with the company that long, he was just now able to get 25 days a year of paid vacation. So 25 days a year paid vacation, but he had been with the company for either 20 or 25 years in order to get that. If he would have been working here in the UK, even if he was just doing something like flipping burgers at McDonald's, he would have gotten more days of paid vacation on day one of that job, as opposed to having to wait either 20 or 25 years in the US to get not even the same amount of days off. I use that example because according to the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics, a fairly high percentage of companies in the US do offer paid vacation. Depending on the size of the company, it's anywhere from about 71% to 92%, I believe, of companies that do offer paid vacation. With companies that are over 500 employees, so any large companies, it is like 92% of companies that offer paid vacation, but it's still nowhere near what you would get here in the UK and elsewhere in the developed world. So you might look at that statistic and think that maybe the vast majority of Americans are able to take holidays, but that's just not true. The reality is that the majority of those companies that do actually offer paid vacation don't give you any until you've been with the company for at least a year, and even then they don't really give you that much. Like I said before, that really good union job only gave me 5 days of paid vacation my first year. Many of these companies, the most that you will ever get might be 15, 20, maybe 25 days a year if you're lucky. And you won't get that until you've been with the company for 15, 20 years or more. And even then, it would never be the amount of paid vacation that you would get with any company here in the UK. Americans really don't travel. Something like 11% of Americans have never even left their state, and less than half of all Americans even own a passport. Part of the reason why is because they just don't have money, which I've addressed in previous videos, and I'm sure I'll make more videos about Americans not having any money. But another big reason is that even if they do somehow have the money to travel, they just don't have the time. One example is one of those companies I previously worked for. I worked for about a year saving all of my holidays to take a big trip. It was only 2 weeks, which by American standards is a very big vacation. But so yeah, I saved my paid vacation to take a 2-week trip. When I got back from that trip, I got sick and I missed 1 day of work. I wasn't fired, but because I had missed that 1 day of work and had to call in, about 6 months later, 8 months later, something like that, when I was up for a promotion, my manager at the time actually said that she wanted to give me the promotion, but the company wouldn't allow her to give me the promotion because of that 1 day that I had called in sick 6 months ago. One important thing to note is that the 28 days per year that you're entitled to here in the UK is just the baseline. Of course, many companies do offer more than that in order to, have better benefits for the employees. The last company that I worked for here in Scotland, they offered a little bit more than the 28 days. I'm wanting to say it was like 29 or 30 days of paid vacation, but they also from time to time just gave out extra days that were off, paid, didn't account for your holiday. And they also had every single year on your birthday, you could take your birthday off or a day before, a day after, and that would also be fully paid and it would not count against your normal paid vacation annual leave that you get to take. So I've established that here in the UK, you get quite a bit more paid time off than you would back in the United States. If you're in the US, I hope that you're lucky enough to have paid vacation, but what happens if you quit your job or if you get fired? The good news is that it is much harder to get fired here in the UK than back in the US, but that's a topic for a whole video by itself about it's called right to work in the US, and it's not the right to work, but I will do another video just about that at some point as well. In the US, any paid vacation that you have when you leave a company, if you quit or get fired, because the company is not legally required to give that to you in the first place, they're not legally required to pay it out to you when you leave. So if you are fired or if you quit, chances are that your paid vacation is just gone. Here in the UK, if you quit or are fired or leave the company, they are required by law to pay out any of your unused paid vacation that you have. One other thing that kind of took me off guard when I first moved here and I had my first job offer was that when they were giving me the job offer, they actually asked me if I had any holidays that I had already booked before I got this job offer. Most companies, if not all companies here in the UK, when you first start the job, they're going to ask you if you have any holidays that you've already booked. And even if you might not be able to get those days off in future years, they will do everything they can to make sure that you can have those days off for the holiday that you've already booked. I've never had that question asked for me in the United States because frankly, they don't care. And any new job that you start, it's pretty much either an outright rule or an unspoken rule that if you call in or if you try to take holiday within your first couple months or first year, then you're done. They very likely might just fire you. And they can do that legally in the US, but they can't necessarily do that here. So yeah, I've had several jobs in the US over the years, and I've never had anyone ask me about holidays that were pre-booked. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date for more content just like this. Let me know in the comments what you think about annual leave or paid vacation. How much do you get at your current job, and do you think it's enough?